I'll fall back on my work experience in Department of Defense and cybersecurity. One concern I have with having this one department have somebody focused on cybersecurity is what we have found is that if organizationally you don't do something across the enterprise, you typically have solutions that are not optimal and that cost more in the end run because you many times have to back up and start over again in some places. So I guess my question is there something unique to your area of business with the election system that requires your own solution versus an enterprise-wide solution that the Secretary of State's office has a role in and a part in to determine? And I'll give an example. You bring up 169 towns, establishing a protocol across the enterprise as opposed to just within the election system of changing passwords every 6 months as opposed to whatever it might be now, is a protocol that ought to be consistent across the enterprise and not something that is a solution that solves the issue that you're dealing with there. So, comment on that.
Yes, that's exactly what we want to do. And to do that kind of training and making sure that all the districts are doing the same thing, setting that standard, you have to then go out and implement it because that's our office, essentially. That's one example. I know there are others. For example, we're instituting what they call a virtual desktop. And that will require, again, working with the towns. And as I understand it, and I can get Mr. Miano up here to talk about this because I'm going to reach the end of my knowledge on this pretty quickly. But those are exactly the kinds of things that we need to be implementing from our office across, as you say, the enterprise, which in this case is the 169 towns. I don't know if you want to add to that, Tom. Am I roughly correct?
You're correct. You're correct. What we're trying to do is we're trying to push more security out to the towns that we have control over. Because right now we have no control over what the towns are doing to secure their workstations. So what accesses our system, we want to have more control over that. So we're implementing virtual desktops, which we will have control over. So they're endpoints at the town that we now know what's on it for security, we know what's on it for virus protection, and we control that. So that's how we're reaching further into the towns. Plus, this position not only will work within the agency, but will work with all of the other central IT all the other IT organizations within the state to coordinate our efforts.
And I guess that's where my concern is, and that's why I was asking if there's something unique. It sounds like there might be, in that you have a system that's isolated from the rest of the state's network, as an example. Yeah. But my concern is that the Secretary of State's office would implement something through this new position to protect cybersecurity and establish policy that is not broadly the enterprise I'm talking about is not just the Secretary of State's enterprise, but the state of Connecticut's IT enterprise, and that the parameters and the protocols are consistent. There's a lot of validity to making sure that that's consistent across the enterprise, such that the cybersecurity policies are based on consistent information and not stovepiped into a situation where you optimize a solution for your situation that is inconsistent potentially across the broader state enterprise. And that's my concern with having an individual there who is tasked by the Secretary of the State's office vice a centralized cybersecurity office within the state enterprise that you have a participant in to ensure that the policy across the state is consistent. And I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, but there are many fraught with error or fraught with challenges if we don't do that starting from the beginning and we try and back into it later by each department starting their own thing and then figuring out we didn't do it the same way, and we lose a lot of time, money, and effort having to start back over again. That's right. My concern.
And this position is not a silo within our agency only. We leverage the resources of the central state IT. So for networking, we use the central state IT, and we use their protocols, and we use their processes to transport our services to the towns. So we work with the central IT organization. We also work with the central IT security organization for policy and looking at the software they use to monitor and log, so that we're using consistent products and we're not doing different in disparate systems.
And one final question, I'm familiar within DOD, we have inspection teams and oversight teams that come into our offices to ensure that we're compliant with federal law and regulations. Do we have a similar system that is going to come in and provide oversight to the state to ensure that we're complying with things that are mandated by the federal government on cybersecurity and those kinds of things? Is there that system that comes into the states to provide an inspection, a report, and then an ability to respond and make corrective actions?
We've leveraged
Yeah.
DHS to do those kinds of things. We're also looking to bring in external consultants to audit our vendors. We want to make sure our vendors are compliant. Our vendors are securing their systems because they are also providing us with our systems. But we've leveraged the federal government.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.